Welcome to Autism on the Sea Special Vacation Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Caslin, and today we're chatting with Dr. Rachel Potter. She is the Dean for the College of Education at Mary Baldwin University. Hey, Rachel.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So you are and have been very entrenched with the Autism on the Seas family. You've been a guest. You've been a volunteer staffer. You've been a group leader. You've organized student cruises so you can kind of give them some practical experience.
Absolutely. And your word family, Lisa, is just perfect because that's exactly what being a part of Autism on the Seas feels like when you're involved in as many aspects of it as I have been.
Oh, so you have a specialization or you have experience sort of integrating, I guess, teaching methods associated with children who have special needs. Is that correct?
That's right. So I actually started my career as a special education teacher, and then later on in my career through administration became a board-certified behavior analyst. So I teach courses that prepare future teachers in special education. I teach for a program that results in a certification in autism spectrum disorders. But the program at Mary Baldwin University that is really my baby is our applied behavior analysis program, which is very centered in preparing practitioners to work with individuals with a variety of developmental disabilities, including autism.
Wow, okay. And you just so happen to have a son that has autism, correct?
I do. My oldest son, who will be 15 next month, is on the autism spectrum.
All right. So how did you initially get involved with Autism on the Seas? How did we land on your radar?
Great question, Lisa. Actually, I first heard about Autism on the Seas from one of my students who was completing an assignment for one of our autism certification courses where they had to look into resources at a national, state, and local level that were related to family needs and recreation. And one of my students turned in her assignment about Autism on the Seas, and she had no personal connection herself, but had come across it doing her research on the internet. And so the professor and me, of course, assessed her assignment. I'm sure she probably got an A. But then the mom in me thought, you know what, my son is 7, and I have never taken a family vacation because I'm terrified. I'm worried my son's going to run off or have a tantrum or get lost, or people are going to look at me funny, or people are going to judge me, or it's going to be a miserable experience. And this is coming from somebody with expertise.
I know.
In that area. I can only imagine what that might be like for a parent or family who doesn't have that background and experience.
So you did it.
Yeah, so we took our first family vacation, and Eric's younger brother, who's neurotypical, came along, and the first day was terrifying, and I thought, okay, my son's going to jump overboard, and he's going to drown, and this is going to be horrible, and I've just wasted money, and this is a miserable experience, and what have I done?
Yeah.
And within hours, I knew that it was the best decision I could have possibly made.
Wow. And what was it that sort of calmed you down?
Truly people and relationships. And I think that's one of the things that Autism on the Seas does exceptionally well and takes a great deal of pride in is the relationship that the staff and the group leader build immediately with families, that builds a sense of trust and a sense of community, was exactly what I needed in that moment. And I suddenly knew that I was surrounded by people who, not only other families who weren't going to judge me because they've experienced this themselves, but I was also surrounded by people who were going to help me, and that it was okay for me to ask for that help and ask for that assistance. And on that first day, I know I cried out of frustration, but I also cried out of joy by the time the day was over.
Oh, so you had that experience, and then you sort of got involved on the other side which was to assist other parents like yourself, and you served as a leader, right, a group leader.
I did. Because I saw the alignment between my professional world and my personal experience through Autism on the Seas. I wanted to engage in service to the organization, and that seemed to be a good fit for my skill set and my work schedule. And so for a number of years, I served as one of the team of group leaders, leading staff, volunteers to support families and serving as that liaison between the shifts and the families and making sure that everybody's needs are met for the duration of the vacations, and continue now as a volunteer staff member to provide those same services in a slightly different role.
That's wonderful. So if you were to compare the experience as a parent to one who is serving the other parents, what would you say you learned? What did you learn by working with other parents who had children with disabilities?
I think it's broadened my own sense of empathy in terms of understanding just how different every child and every family situation is. Mm-hmm. We have had families sail with groups that I've supported with children on the autism spectrum as young as 2 and as old as 42, and with varying levels of needs. And for me, I get great joy out of that variety and out of being able to work with each family and each child or adult child to make sure that they're having a very safe, first and foremost, but secondly, a fun and memorable experience. And I think as a group leader in particular, you're prioritizing not just the child's needs, but truly the needs of the entire family. Because it's the family that's the client,
of course,
not just the special needs child.
Yep.
You want that family to leave not needing a vacation to recover from their vacation. And that is what I remember. So when I think about my experience as a parent, I remember walking away from that experience not needing a week to recover, which is what I thought I was going to need.
Oh, isn't that
that's
a blessing?
I want to replicate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me, you had the I guess the epiphany and thought, well, gee, my students could really gain some powerful knowledge by participating in this. What was the goal for you in bringing a group of students on an Autism on the Seas cruise?
Absolutely. So we looked at that a few years ago and had some conversation about, well, which students would these be? And we focused primarily on students who were in our teacher education programs or occupational physical therapy programs. And initially in developing the program, I think the intent was to supplement a course that they were taking related to autism. And they do take that course associated with it, where they do some work ahead of time prior to the cruise, and it sort of culminates with the cruise experience. But when it comes down to it, the cruise part of that experience isn't about learning about autism. They've gotten that from the textbook, they've gotten that from their lectures, they've gotten that from listening to me drone on and on. But what they get out of that experience is a tremendous sense of empathy for these families and for the siblings and for these individuals that they're working with that cannot be replicated in a classroom, in a university classroom, nor can it be replicated in a school-based practicum, for example. So when they read about in a textbook maybe why a family that has a child on the spectrum might be hesitant to go into the community, to go to a grocery store, or to go to a restaurant, to go out to eat, they can see that in real time when they're in the dining room on the cruise ship or when they're at the beach assisting families, and they can truly understand through experience and not just through what they're reading. And that lesson in empathy is absolutely the most important thing that my students gain when they participate in supporting the staff who are providing that level of service for these families.
That's amazing. And do they get credit for that?
They do. Experience? They get academic credit.
Oh, great. It's a wonderful idea, really.
Not just attending the cruise.
Exactly. Do you have any other words of wisdom for families out there who may be, in that same position where they still haven't cracked the vacation code and, they're thinking about maybe a cruise, but, are still a little worried about it? What would you say to them?
I think having an opportunity to interact with families who have experienced this could be beneficial, whether it's listening to a conversation like this or interacting with other families on Facebook who've experienced autism on the seas, or even, calling the office and asking for a referral to another family. There's so many families who have been touched by this experience who have said, please feel free to have the hesitant family call me.
Yeah.
And, I think the organization is happy to make those connections if somebody would feel better talking to somebody who's experienced that, while still recognizing that every family is going to be different in how they experience that. And that's one of the things that's so great about Autism on the Seas is the cruise experience itself can be so individualized based on what a family needs or doesn't need, or what level of service they want or don't want, or what a child's interest is or isn't. That individualization, I think, really is what makes this so much more than just a group-organized cruise event.
And I think your own son has really made some big strides, right? The last cruise you took was just this past March, and you gave him some pretty liberal freedom, right?
I did, and that was my first time doing that. It was probably his maybe sixth cruise that he's done in his lifetime, all with Autism on the Seas. And that was my first time kind of saying, you know what, I'm going to let you go use the restroom by yourself when we're at dinner, or I'm going to let you, stay in the pool while Mom walks down to one of the shops for a few minutes, or I'm going to let you go to the arcade for an hour by yourself. And was I a little nervous about it? Sure.
Yeah.
But I know that he's safe, and I know that he feels a level of comfort in cruise travel because he's experienced that. And I also know that at some point he's going to come across somebody in an orange shirt that says Autism on the Sea staff, and he knows those are his go-to people. And if he has a question, he can go to them. He knows that he can go up to any of the cruise ship staff wearing a name tag if he doesn't know where he is or he has a question. And he can do that and have that freedom. And you know what? He did fantastic. And while I was nervous giving him that level of freedom, it was the best thing I could have done for him.
Oh, good. So has any of that carried over? Has, any changes in behavior carried over, post-cruise?
I would say maybe more for me than for him, which is good, right? So I think in my own behavior and level of trust, he demonstrated a great deal of trust, so it has changed in our home and in our community what I'm allowing him to do. I will now, leave him at home for a longer period of time while I'm running errands. I will allow him to, and this was a huge one for me, I will let him use the microwave when I'm not in the house. Now, I can guarantee you the first few times he had to text me afterwards to say I finished using the microwave and the house isn't on fire because I'd be sweating bullets. But I have to allow him to experience that independence so that he can practice that and learn that. And the cruise was an opportunity not only for him to demonstrate that, but for me to kind of let go in a situation where I knew I had support if I needed it from the Autism on the Sea staff. And I knew he was going to be safe, and I knew I had those resources available to me. And so I think my behavior maybe changed more than his.
That's great. They gave you training wheels. Exactly.
It was a safe space for me to learn and grow.
That's amazing. Well, you're a vital component in his development and his growth, right? So it's you grow, he grows. That's excellent.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, it's been great having you. Your story is amazing. We appreciate you so much, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Well, thank you for the invitation. We've already booked our next cruise as a family for December of 2020, so my boys are counting down on the calendar.
Good for you. Good for you. Listen, enjoy your summer. Don't work too hard.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.